What we're seeing unfolding not only on the streets of Tehran, but all over the world, including on Canadian streets, Iranians protesting against a brutal regime. Hello, everyone. I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. The images are extraordinary, Warren. We haven't seen this in a decade. We've seen times in which the Iranian people rise up against these brutal clerics. We've seen times in the past when there's been opportunity to be freed of this reign of terror, of this regime in Iran. This moment seems different to me.
It is like the people of Iran are so brave.
Mm-hmm.
They're so courageous. Like this is a bigger uprising. There have been, as you pointed out, about half a dozen over the past decade and a half. The biggest one to this point had been the one in which the young woman was beaten to death for refusing to go along with the Islamic clothing rules, and that she was beaten to death, and the country rose up against that. But this is different. It's been triggered apparently by the devaluation of the Iranian currency, but also just the complete and total disregard for human rights by the Iranian regime. I think all of us are hoping, not just Israelis, that this does come to pass, that there is going to be regime change. But as we've seen in Venezuela, that's difficult to achieve. You can take out the leader, but there still could be a lot of bad people around. So my hope is that President Trump, as you guys know, I'm no fan of the president, but the one thing that's interesting about his personality and his approach is I think a lot of these despots actually regard him as such a total maniac, willing to cross red lines. Barack Obama famously and shamefully, saying he had a red line over Syria and then did nothing about it, about the terrible loss of life there. Trump, I think all of us recognizes, has a willingness to cross a red line. And the reporting coming out of Washington, last night is he knows he has to act. He indicated that Iran was his red line, that they needed to stop killing innocent citizens. They've killed thousands. The smallest figure we've seen so far is as little as 3,000, maybe as many as 30,000. So I think all of us, including those of us who aren't fans of the president, are hopeful that he acts. What can he do? Obviously, he can't bomb Iran or, its nuclear facilities as he did back in July. I think it's targeting where the security services are headquartered. Unfortunately, a lot of those places are headquartered in major cities like Tehran. So this is going to be a difficult assignment for the Americans and possibly the Israelis, but I don't think we have any choice. We have to support these people because they are so brave and they are risking everything.
Brian, we've seen on X, the Ayatollah is out there posting on X and just provoking the United States, making fun of the United States. That Iran's foreign minister went on with Fox News's Brett Baer yesterday and really badmouthed, of course, President Trump but did admit that they did destroy those nuclear facilities, but didn't destroy the actual capabilities in total. But nonetheless, there is a notion that this is a regime under the Ayatollah that is clinging on to power in its final gasps, final breath, so to speak. And what do we do when someone's trapped in a corner? Well, they fight back and they bite back pretty hard. The Iranian police, the Iranian military haven't turned on the regime, and it seems they're still against the people. And so I'm wondering, where is the intervention going to come in when President Trump says to the Iranian people, help is on the way? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I've just recorded the latest edition of the Full Comment podcast where I spoke to a couple of Canadian experts on this matter, both of them with Iranian roots, talking about you can't contact anyone in Tehran reliably these days. Talking to friends who have family there, and they don't know how their family's doing because of the communication shutdown. Elon Musk activated Starlink for free for everyone in Iran, and the government used software to try and jam it and shut it down because they had control over everything but Starlink, and then they were able to try and, at least on a regular basis, shut it down so that, getting reliable information is choppy. Look, what we know is that it's going to be difficult, as Warren said, for Trump or any Western country to intervene, but at least his threats of intervention have resulted in Iran saying, oh no, there's not going to be any execution. So this young man, 26-year-old, his name is Irfan Soltani, he was supposed to be executed this week. They've put that off. Let's hope that stays that way. But what we're seeing with Trump, is his rhetoric matching his actions? No, not necessarily. But it's having at least an impact. You go back to when you had Masha Amini, the woman that Warren mentioned, who didn't wear the hijab properly. And that was in 2022 that happened. There was not the support from the West on that. Sure, we were all in the middle of the pandemic. We're all dealing with COVID. Attention may have been elsewhere. You go back to 2009, the Green Revolution. Obama mouthed some words, but didn't offer any support. And because of, other issues, nobody believed that he was going to do anything. And so Iran just crushed that popular uprising. This is the best chance. Is it going to happen? I'm not sure. Trump has used phrases like locked and loaded, but hasn't acted yet. Is it the threat? Is it the action? I don't know. But there's a lot of hope from the diaspora community that things will actually move this time. Iran should be a prosperous nation. It was a modern, prosperous nation before the Islamic Revolution in 1979. There's a revolution that went sideways. My big concern right now is if this is a legitimate and proper revolution that takes hold, will it go sideways as well? Because Iran shouldn't have ended up like they did in 1979, but the wrong people ended up at the top at the end of the revolution. We can't have that happen again.
Now, interesting tangentially to this, Warren, waiting in the wings is Pahlavi. He's there. It seems like very much supported by the Iranian people to come back as the Shah. That's what they want. I'm sure he has detractors as well. But is it possible that, Brian says, Trump's rhetoric matching action? Donald Trump's not going to show his hand. We know that. We even saw that in the summer before the attack on the nuclear facility. He didn't show his hand, and nor should he, quite frankly. But this is it possible there are, sort of these quote unquote diplomatic discussions happening behind the scenes saying, all right, Ayatollah, you, your people, you're done, you're out, negotiating, getting them out? I mean, could those things be happening? Could it be strategic and surgical, like getting, Maduro and his wife were extricated, not, any bullets fired and no people died, and it lands in a court in New York. I mean, I suppose these are all things that are possible.
But we just don't know. We don't know. As been pointed out, the internet's been shut down. Musk, to his great credit, has ensured that there's some Starlink service there. But even then, that's difficult to do because the Iranians have figured out how to jam that. There are videos coming out of there, and I've got a book coming out about propaganda, which will be out next month. And I caution people about what they're seeing online. I know there's a lot of people in the West saying, oh, look at, there's hundreds of thousands of people. The organizations that track online propaganda are saying a lot, if not the majority of the stuff you are seeing online has been manipulated by AI. And in some cases, these videos have been seen by millions of people. So be very suspicious about what you see. The one thing we do know, and this gets back to your excellent point about, someone being cornered. Let's look at the Iranian regime over the past 2 years. They made a move against Israel on October 7th using their proxy Hamas. Hamas has been reduced to rubble, just about. Hezbollah has been virtually destroyed. Its puppet regime in Syria is gone. And as a consequence of the strikes against its nuclear capability by the United States and Israel in July, it doesn't have that strength anymore either. So we have to be very careful about where we want this to go and what direction we want it to move in, because, you know, the Iranians, this regime, we need to be able to say, look, there's a way of achieving this without all of you being wiped out in the way that your people want to do to you. I don't know if those discussions are taking place. All we know is that this morning, Trump has said that killings have stopped. I suspect that's not true. I mean, the scheduled execution, as Brian pointed out, of that one young man has been put on pause, but I don't think this regime has given up yet. So I caution everybody, you know, be careful what you see online, be careful what you hear, because it may not be true.
Can I just add
Last
to
word
that?
to you, Brian.
So Warren's talking about the disinformation coming out of Iran, and a lot of that, as he's documented, go buy his book Hidden Hand, available wherever good books are sold. The whole disinformation campaign out of Iran, it was documented over the past few days that suddenly these accounts that are very active on Scottish independence, which are constantly telling the people of Scotland that Britain is no good for you, that the English don't care about you, that this is awful, and you should just separate. They went silent when the internet went down in Iran. The internet did not go down in Glasgow. It did not go down in Edinburgh or Aberdeen or Dundee. It went down in Tehran. And I'm sure that if you went and looked, you would find similar anti-West sentiment diminishing when the internet went down in Tehran. These guys have been active at sowing dissent in the West, whether we're talking about Scottish independence or, hey, maybe even in this country, Alberta independence or Quebec independence, in the United States, getting people angrier at each other over what's happening in Minnesota than they were otherwise. This is what the Iranians do. And when they shut down their own internet, these things go quiet. That should tell you an awful lot about this regime.
And sadly, we know as of right now, one Canadian has been murdered by the regime. Let's hope there's no more, but the world is going to have to act and act quickly. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to thetorontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.